So we got Matt Rife today, and Matt Rife is obviously up and coming, been up and coming for years, though. He's done it longer than people think. I think.
Yes, 10 years in the business and then exploded in the last 2 years via TikTok to doing his own specials. And now on Netflix, he has a new special called Lucid, where he does just crowd work. If you don't know what that means, he's just improvising with people in the audience for the entire special. And they've never had one like that on Netflix. So that's his latest gig.
It's tricky. He had one before that did well on Netflix. He's had a YouTube special that sort of got around, and he's been out there hitting the road and hitting the clubs for a long time from Ohio. Very good looking. We all understand what it's like to be good looking, and we talked about that.
We related to him heavily.
Yeah.
No, he's a very personable, sweet, humble guy. He's sort of a little bit in the shock and awe of the success he's had in the last 2 years, and he's got a huge following, and he's really fun to talk to. He's got an interesting story about how he started and his grandfather and all kinds of things. It was a very fun podcast.
Yeah, he's a good dude, and we had a lot of laughs. Anytime we have comedians on, it's really fun to just get inside baseball and just talk about everything top to bottom, what it's like, and that was really fun with him. Cool dude.
Yeah.
All right, here he is, Matt Rife.
I think you'll enjoy it.
Oh, someone's blow dryer broke today.
I love the wallpaper. What is that? Santa grandma.
This is a headboard.
Oh, a headboard. So you're you're in bed.
Oh yeah, I'm not gonna put on pants for this. Come on.
It's a fucking Rorschach test.
I've never worn pants.
Where are you guys?
Undisclosed location.
Spade's in LA, behind Mel's Diner.
I like you. Look how Matt and I will relate. I, like you, have a farm. I'm at the farm.
Wait, how did you know I have a farm?
It's called research. Look into it.
Oh my God. Yeah. That got leaked where I live now. That's fun.
Oh, I wouldn't give an address, so I don't even give a state, but
give the address, because some people don't have
445-375.
You go down the dirt road a piece.
Yeah. There's 4 mailboxes. Only 3 of them are operative. One has a blue flag.
Operative.
Stop there and make a U-turn. Anyway,
look, we got our own crowd work special. Look at us go.
Thanks for coming on.
I'm in danger.
Matt,
I'm in danger.
Not at all. Thanks for coming on.
In danger.
We always danger Will Robinson. 60s, old reference lost on younger people. Anyway, you're a phenomenon. It's pretty interesting reading.
Thanks,
dude. I read the New Yorker piece. I don't know if that.
Oh boy.
But it was pretty comprehensive, but not too detailed, but it kind of told me your story pretty succinctly,
It did okay. It did okay.
Oh, look. It
wasn't my favorite article ever written, but it was,
here's
nice.
Here's the deal. Here's what you do when you're Adam Sandler, before he was Adam Sandler. Because what happens, you'd be interviewed by somebody and you go, well, that doesn't sound like me. And it's a cut and paste and added and edited. Like, well, I never said that. And now it sounds like I'm saying that. So that's just that. So Sandler, very early on, before he was Adam Sandler, he'd only do ones where they record it and then they take what you say and put it in there. And even if they edit that, it is at least what you said, word for word. So that's your next interview.
I'm just learning it's interesting how people can interpret the interview that they had with you. Like how they perceived how you were saying something. You're like, oh, I actually didn't mean it like that. But
yes,
it's always better on video. I think Adam went totally off of print interviews for years. Because even I think they were going to put him on the cover of Rolling Stone. He goes, I don't want to do the interview. Because it's another interview where the writer sometimes benefits by going, I'm going to make a name for myself by spinning Adam whatever way I want. And then it just turns into, I don't want you to go win some Pulitzer, so I'm going to fucking just skip that part.
So if we'd done this 2 months ago, you would not have that New York article.
Yeah, thank you.
But I wish I could say I've never heard of such a thing. An article you read, that's not me, and I didn't say it like that or that. Yeah.
Well, if it sounds negative, I mean, the truth is, you worked hard. You've got big specials out, and you sell the places out. I mean, I don't know how they can spin stuff, but that's the real story.
Thanks, man. As long as that's what you got from it, I'm happy with it.
Well, when all the dust settles, that's
I know. Well,
that's what's going on.
We had it with someone who we talked to the other day. I can't keep track, but people love to stir the pot. It was Bo and Yang. They just took one little quote and then they blew it up all over the web. By the time I got to the 10th place, it's showing up. It's completely distorted. So anyway, it happens to the best of them. I don't even pay attention to those kinds of parts of the article. I just skim over them. I don't even take them seriously.
It's funny how they can hang on one sentence. There was, I think it was TMZ popped up on me in New York one time. They were asking like, how do you describe it was for my first special, a little over almost a year ago. They were like, how would you describe it? I was like, I think this one's like a little bit more for guys. And they were like, Matt Rife basically says, fuck women. This one's for the women. Dudes. What did he mean by that? I was like, I mean, there's like 20 minutes about cum. Like, that's all I meant. That's all I meant by it. But people can harp on one sentence.
I think I learned early on the TMZ, as Chris Rock would say, they're not your friend. I mean, they're friendly, but their job is to get you to say something that gets picked up. And I didn't even figure that out for a while. They don't want to say, how are you? They want to dig in and get a question that no matter how you answer, they got an answer. And and if you stiff them and you don't say anything, then they hate your guts. And then now it's another problem. So you sort of play along just to stay on their good side, but it's a dangerous situation.
And you are in the position.
Really think.
You're a shiny new object. Like I've been in this business for so many, you are.
Dana's beat up around the
You are a brand. I'm so cynical. I can't even, but I think it's an IQ test for the audience for people who read things. Could be true. Probably not. You have to have it. It's not cynical. It's just like the way the world works, but you're a shiny new object, came out of nowhere. I mean, according to the article, you're pretty much thinking of maybe stepping outside this career 2 years ago, basically, in 2022. Yeah. Is that accurate?
Yeah, absolutely. I had been doing stand-up for about 11 years, and I'd been in LA for 9 of them at that point. And, auditions would go well, but it always came down to, it's just not right for this project. And stand-up was just kind of stagnant. Like I couldn't get on TV, and I wasn't getting a lot of spots around town that I felt like I could actually grow. And, for making money, I was having to I'd have to go on the road and do one-nighters and just feature for people for like a month straight to save up for like 2 months worth of bills. So I wasn't getting to spend the appropriate amount of time in LA. And the time I was spending there wasn't really moving forward at all. So I was like, you know what? I'm 26 or 25. I was like, I'm young enough that I can pick a new career if I want to. So I was like, well, Austin's kind of booming a little bit right now. Let me just leave LA. I'll give it 1 year in Austin where I can get a lot more stage time at least. And if I don't feel like my stand-up career is progressing, I'll go do something else. Cause I mean, the depression fucking adds up, man, where you start to feel like delusional. Like, am I chasing a dream that's like so unattainable? Like, is this not for me when I can, I can go do something that at least feels more stable, I suppose.
Wow.
Sure. Truck driving.
Yeah.
It does feel like at least a 9 to 5, you get a paycheck. Like, I don't think people realize it. As good as the Laugh Factory, Improv, and Comedy Store are, which they're fucking great and invaluable to be able to get on, it's not a big windfall. So I think when I started, it was $28 a set. And then now it's, I don't know, it's 50, 75, but it's not like you're getting $3,000. I thought when you went on Johnny Carson or like Jimmy Fallon, when I was a kid watching it, in my head, I guessed you get $10,000 just for to do a stand-up, to do 6 minutes. So I go, those guys are raking it in. And then someone told me once it's $450. I was like, for that? But that's even Ellen to this day. My last Ellen I did was probably $700, but that's just to get on to grow yourself. But it helps their show, but you're giving your best shit and then you're, it's low money.
but say what you ever want to say. But I just so fascinated by your grandfather taking you to a comedy club when you're 15. But we can move on and get back to that. But I've never heard that before. That's a movie or something. I mean,
I mean, it basically was like he was bad Santa mixed with dirty grandpa. Like that was him as a person. He fucking, I mean, he's the reason I know who both of you are, actually. Like I grew up watching your guys' movies like crazy.
Oh, that's good.
So he kind
love
of
that
just,
guy.
Yeah, I love that guy.
He was great. You can dig him up and thank him yourself.
Is Dana, what are you doing this afternoon?
So you're like a freshman in high school or something, and your grandfather says to you, "Want to go to a comedy club, kid?" I mean, is it just that casual? And you're like, or were you already kind of funny and watching a lot of comedy? Did he see something in you?
I mean, I kind of spearheaded it. I would spend every weekend with him, and we would watch comedy movies. Like that was the thing.
Oh, okay.
He'd pick me up on a Friday after school, and he'd have like 6 new DVDs that he picked up on the way home.
How fun, yeah.
And then we would watch those. And then from that, this is when like Comedy Central Presents was like really starting to boom, like the half hours.
Yeah.
So I would watch that pretty much every weeknight. So the combination of the two just really made me fall in love with comedy. And then I found out what like an actual like stand-up comedian was. And then I got wind of what an open mic was. And apparently that was like the beginning for every comedian. Like that's where you go to try out stand-up. And the Columbus Funny Bone, I was living with my grandpa at the time, and it was maybe 20. Yeah, he was a cook. He would take me to this open mic. I emailed Dave Stroop.
I don't. Is that the Columbus Funny Bone?
He owns like all of the Funny Bones.
I never got in any Funny Bones.
Are you serious?
Yeah, they didn't want me. That's when you send your tape in, and then the Denunzios, there were some people that own different clubs, and they go, nah, no on the Funny Bones. I was like, oh my God, that's like 12 fucking weeks of work.
You would have to send in a tape.
Yeah. You have to send in a half-inch VCR or whatever, VCH. And then they look at it, and then they never get back to you. That's the system.
No fucking way.
Yeah.
I sent an email. I was sitting in my grandpa's truck while he was laying tile, and I emailed the club. I was like, hey, I'm 15. I know you have to be 21 enough to go in the club. But like, if I had a chaperone with me, like, could I still come? He had no reason to say yes. Like any club owner it would make total sense for them to be like, I'm not going to risk my liquor license for a kid to like try a hobby. But he said yes. So my grandpa would take me, and he would buy 5 tickets because it was like a 5-ticket bringer show was how you would get stage time there. And every week he would do that.
To go on. I thought just to watch. Oh, to go on.
No. He would still have to buy the 5 so I could perform.
Yeah. That makes sense. Bringer show. But that guy was cool to do that.
Is your grandfather still with us?
No, he just died.
No, yeah, he died about 2 years ago. He died like the exact moment all of this happened for me.
Fuck.
Wow.
Good with the bad. I know.
You know, it's funny. You can't get that part's not funny, but you can't get super cocky because, or you shouldn't be, because the same with all of us. It's such a grind and so shitty, and you feel so down so much that when it goes good, where it's, I guess, supposed to, that's the goal, that you just can't erase all the bad. So you just go, fuck, every day is lucky, where you go, it could go back to that. I'm more used to that in a weird way when it was shitty.
Yeah. And I've been, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but I've been so busy since then that I was kind of happy that I was too busy to really be sad. But I don't know, through therapy, I'm learning that I haven't really quite had like the time to grieve, I suppose. But maybe I'm supposed to be this busy to keep me distracted. Who knows?
Well, I would just say, without knowing him, but from my point of view and where I'm sitting on the life train, he must have had a blast.
Well, you guys probably went to school together, so take a guess.
We probably did.
How old are you?
You don't need to know. Look me up.
Yeah, Matt. We'll email you later. We'll tell you.
I'm north of 60, south of 70, but I'm wherever I am. New Yorker. Yeah, but look how good I look. I mean, it's incredible, right?
You look great.
It doesn't make sense for how old I am. But my point is, we could tear up on a podcast. We go wherever we want. But he must have got such a kick out of it. He's got this grandson who's 15. Obviously, you're an affable, agreeable, cool person. And he must have just got such a kick out of that. I just want to ask you one question, because we talk about your very, very, very first set. Did you, I'm guessing you kind of outperformed, did better, or did you bomb? Because I usually people say their first sets maybe goes well, and then you bomb for years after that.
After the first one.
It wasn't years after. The first set went really well. I forgot my set like 3 minutes into it, and I like literally froze for like 10 seconds. And some of the audience was like, you got it. Like, they were very supportive. And then I got back on track. I said something about them yelling that out. And it ended up going really well. My second set, I was so confident. I did a bit that was basically my version of Dane Cook's I Did My Best bit, where it's like just you crying profusely. And I was on the floor, like kicking and screaming. Like, this was like the big act out of this bit, because my confidence was so high from the first show. And the bit was over, and I had to pick myself up off the ground to absolute silence. And to this day, I cannot commit to a big physical bit, because it's so fucking terrifying. It was so humiliating.
Dust yourself off.
I'd say like
silence.
Second and third time I ate shit. And then I got back into like having fun. But nobody ever told me about building a set either. So I would go every single week for like 5 months and just do like a new 5 minutes, which I didn't know was like not what you're supposed to do.
Oh, I thought you were doing the same 5, which also you should be adding on to. But that first one is like cocaine, where if it goes good, you're just trying to chase that first one and go, holy shit. Because I thought it's interesting the guy let you in, because when you're like a regular person, it's a little quicker than the NFL. Like you said, I watch football every day. I wish I could play. It's almost like they go, we have tryouts with the pros on some nights. And you're like, really? So you can actually get in. But open mic nights are very interesting, that you just wait in line and you can get in. And then you're literally on a stage in a professional comedy club, good or bad.
Oh, yeah.
Doing 3 minutes. And 3 minutes sounds like nothing. It's long if you're new and you don't have anything.
Where did you start?
I did it in Arizona, and my first night, someone threw a book at me. I was 18, and they threw this sounds so dumb or fake, but I was doing my jokes about mustard and whatever. I had some, pretty sweet subjects.
Your mustard chunk. I remember that one.
Mustard is watery when you first squirt it out. I don't steal my premises, but that was one of them. I had a rock in my shoe, and it moved every time I walked, and it would go to a different part of my foot. These were the things. The hot, like cement in Arizona, Dana. The funniest part about Arizona was I built up a minuscule 9 minutes, and then someone said, you can go to New York and do the clubs there. And I'm trying to do 15 with 9 AZ minutes, which 8 don't work in New York because they're about my block. And you know what I mean? You go, I was at Smitty's, and they're like, I don't know what that is. And I'm like, the store. And they're like, that's the one store in America, and it's in your town. And I'm like, really? And it's just about things no one relates to. So you have to get a broader, you know what I mean, Dana? Like you're doing shit that no one gets, and it's Arizona based. Even just the state, it's a little wider. But East Coast was so different and foreign to me. So it was just very hard. It took me a long time to get better.
I want to ask Matt, what was your first kind of surefire? Even if it's a quick bit, or what the bit that,
you remember?
The first time you get something that always works.
Anything referencing Justin Bieber at that time, because he's like 2 years older than me, and he was the biggest thing on the planet when I started stand up.
Oh, and you're right in the pocket of his age and shit.
Oh yeah, I think the first thing I ever said on stage was I used to have like this really slick, like gelled hair, and I think my first bit was like, "No, I'm not Justin Bieber. My hair is cool and virtually sperm free, and it just went to the club."
I get it. That is a classic turn. I'm done, and then boom. So those always work. We did not see it coming.
Biebs is a good one. I didn't have much Biebs stuff, but Columbus is a good. Is it a good? I'm asking now. Is it a good comedy club? It's right in the middle of nowhere. My parents brought both went to Denison, which is a small school in Ohio. So I've heard great things about Ohio, but it's
Steph
right
Curry
there.
Go there?
It's the heartland.
Davidson. Okay, go ahead.
It's
the comedy was good.
Yeah, it was good. It was like most comedy clubs. It's in a mall. It's an Easton Mall there.
Oh,
and but the open mics were really nice because you would actually have a crowd. Like my heart goes out to anybody who starts comedy in New York or LA, because you're not getting a real opportunity to perform for a real audience. It's mostly other comics who don't want to laugh at your shit. They don't want to let you know you're funny.
Horrible.
Yeah.
Horrible.
But for Columbus, I mean, you would get 30, 40 people in there. It was really nice.
That's good. That's a real crowd.
Can I have a question for you? Oh, I want to interrupt your train of thought. No, what were you going to say?
No, I was going to say they've remodeled it since then, but it used to be like a 300-seater, maybe at 8-foot ceiling. So, I mean, like when you got a pop, like, you really heard it. It was perfect.
Yeah.
No, that is awesome. I was just going to say that this interim thing of seeing a stand-up when you're first going in the open mics, you haven't really got paid yet. And he's a local stud or something, but he's not on TV. No one's ever heard of him, but he's really good. And that was sort of like revelatory to me. Like, oh, this guy's not on TV and he's really, really good. Do you remember anyone blowing through that club and go, and seeing him and going, he's not on TV, but he's damn good, you know?
Yeah. Road comic.
It's like inspiring, you know?
It was more the host, this guy named Rick, who was, it kind of looked like Barry Katz a little bit. But he was like 6'7", just this giant grizzly dude
with a 9-foot.
He would just, you would never see his head. He would move a ceiling panel,
scraping the roof.
he would murder. But I didn't realize he was doing all local material. Yeah. I didn't realize he had been at that club for like 12 years. He knew every single reference of every person who has ever lived in Ohio. So he would destroy, not knowing he had been doing that same set for like 6 years. But at the time, I was like, how is this guy not doing arenas? He would crush. Yeah. But that also is when I learned, because like the first step kind of after guest spots and open mics is like you have to host in clubs first. That's when I figured out, like, okay, you have to test the water a little bit, let the people know you know about them, I suppose, and where they're at. Do a little bit of research when you travel.
An honor, Dana, to host. Like when Bud Friedman gave me the improv, I got passed. He goes, I'm going to have you host. And I was like, oh, great. So get here at 8 and leave at 1 a.m. And you get like 3 or 4 up front. And that's what you think about all week. And then you literally just stand in the hallway and go, hi, Kevin Nealon. What do you want me to say about you? and then you have to, and you might get one line in between, and then you got to bring up the next guy, and you're running late, so they don't want you to do anything. Don't do any time, just bring them up. And then that gets to be a grind, but it helps.
Speaking of Kevin Nealon, Dana, I don't know if you remember meeting me on his show, like, oh God, 7 years ago, I would say.
On the hiking show?
The hiking one?
No, but he used to do his new material night at the last.
Oh, yeah. We did meet just briefly, right? Did you go on that night, or were you just there?
Yeah. You were, you went on, I think right before me. And I was so flattered that you stayed and like even acknowledged my set. You were super complimentary. You were very nice, a little flirtatious. But it was fucking awesome, man. You were so nice.
Usually Dana has the door open and they run him right out into the limo right after his set of Laugh Factory.
Well, I have a special room upstairs. It's a key to get into it, and it's a place that I chill. It's beyond the upper part. It doesn't matter.
They bring in chalupas.
Yeah, 80-inch flat.
Wait, you've never been in a limo? Is that what you just said?
Never been in a limo.
Fucking thank
God.
No
idea what it looks like in there for real.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
You know what? It's car sickness. I mean, once SUVs came in, that's much more comfortable, But
yeah, it really is.
Are there seatbelts?
No.
In a limo?
No one dies.
David, did you ever
find that hard to believe?
No one dies in limo. Come on.
Usually ODs.
Yeah, that's more OD situation.
Well,
yes, Danny, you had a question for me?
Tracy Morgan might have something to say about limos, because I think that's where he got smacked.
I've met Matt off and on over the years, and always pleasant guy.
He's rife with
fucking killing.
He's rife with jokes. Has anyone ever said jokes?
That? Oh, I was watching your special, and
that's all I got.
We can jump into the special. I have to say, I get my notes out.
Well, I before we get to the special, just quickly, because I think it's fascinating that you spent all this time you're down and out. It's just 2 years ago. And then in the modern world, you put out a TikTok video, and that sort of lit the fuse. This is what I gathered, which is fascinating to me, and led to these other things. So talk about that and that thing blowing up, that TikTok video, and what it did for you.
Is it one or is it a bunch?
One really lit the fire under all the other ones. It's so weird because TikTok and social media is so my generation, but it's not for me. I got the very tail end of what was like the organic stand-up dream of exactly what you described, right? You go on Carson or Fallon, you perform at the clubs, you get discovered at the clubs, you get 5 minutes, then you go to JFL, and then you get a deal for a pilot, and then you do a sitcom, and then you do a movie. Like that was kind of the blueprint for the last 30, 40 years.
For sure.
So that's what I always dreamed of doing. That's how I wanted my stand-up career to go. I fucking hate social media. If I didn't have to be on it, I wouldn't have one. So I was always very reluctant to it. And then when I contemplated moving, maybe like 6 months before that, I was like, you know what? How long can I go against the grain? You know, a couple of guys, Sam Morril, Andrew Schultz, like are starting to post these clips online, and they're doing really well. So I was like, you know what? Let me just try. I'll buy a camera with money I don't have. I'll have my friend teach me how to edit on like basic software, and I'll just start recording my one-nighters because, you know, funny random things happen, or a new bit. Maybe I'll toss it out there. In the first couple of videos I posted on TikTok, they did like 100 to 250,000 views, which is like, it's pretty fucking good.
Yeah.
That's really big.
Well, I got it then. I was like, oh, TikTok's genius. I see how this is immediately addictive. And they reward new users. New users get their stuff pushed
crack
before anybody else.
Yeah.
Instant crack.
They get you hooked.
Yeah. So I started posting, and it would, most videos would average from like 50,000 and like 300,000 views. It was really good. I was starting to get a little bit of following on there. And then I did one show in Arizona at Copper Blues Live, like just north of Phoenix. You know, maybe 70 people there, most of which came from like my first YouTube special that I put out on my own. And this one lady was there. I was working on this bit in my set about red flags, which was like a big social media pop culture thing at the time, where everybody would talk about their warning signs and relationships. And I was going through like 3 examples of red flags I had for women. And just one night on stage, I was like, this seems kind of unfair. I was like, I want a woman's perspective on red flags. Like, what are some red flags for guys? So that began me asking the women in the audience for them. And I was actually searching for material. I was searching for someone to say something that I could write about, but it became so, everything just got so rowdy when I would bring it up or start talking to this person amongst the audience, that it kind of was more fun than going home and turning it into a bit. And I was like, oh, well, if I can have a new fun thing every single show, why not keep doing this? So this woman in Phoenix yelled out, "He doesn't do anything," which was different from what I usually heard. Like, it was usually like, oh, he wears flip-flops, or he doesn't eat ass, like something just kind of base level.
Yeah.
So I was like, didn't do anything. I was like, what do you mean? Like, in life, he doesn't do anything, or he doesn't do anything with you? And she was like, in life, he doesn't do anything. I was like, well, what does he like do for work? And she was like, oh, he works in the ER. Like, he was a fucking hero. Like, forgive Superman for not wanting to go to the farmer's market with you after he gets done saving the world.
Oh, is that what it was? He was too busy, actually?
Yeah, he was too tired at the end of the day to do anything with her. And I just got to destroy her for like 4 or 5 minutes. And that clip took off. And that clip did like 10 million views overnight. And that video made everybody go to my profile. And then that made every other video on my page do like 1 million views. Okay. So it just kind of caught fire in that.
Do they
moment.
Also go to your special, your YouTube special? So it just circulates around.
That special, everything. I think, is at like 13 million views now. The one I did after that was also off of TikTok views. That one's at like 20 million. That one's actually named after my grandpa. So that's probably my favorite one still.
Is that the one called Grandpa?
It's called Matthew Stephen Rife. Because my middle name's Stephen, his name was Stephen. I opened with a story about getting him a pocket pussy for Christmas. It's a fun one.
So, if you were just because I'm a little slow, that this process is so fascinating. How succinctly if you met a guy like you, but he's 18, he's frustrated, you would say, get a camera, just you only have one angle. I get into the technical part.
You're literally in the back of the room, set up on a little tripod. You're hoping it's in focus. And then as they call your name, you hit record and then run on the side of the stage.
There's a waitress standing in front of it most of your set.
It's focused on like the back row of people's heads the whole time.
And the sound isn't always that great because unless you're dialed in like you're special.
Then it comes off authentic to a point, as long as it's not too horrible. But when you start doing crowd work, would you have two cameras then, or someone swinging it around?
No, the person wouldn't be... you would just hear them for the longest time until much further into my career, like a year later. I could finally afford to have somebody there with me to get another angle.
It was funny. A funny trick, Dana. You know this is when you're like in a big crowd and you see some comic and they go, "Look at this fucking guy in the front row. Hey, I do curls every day," and everyone laughs. And I see the guy and he's some meek, skinny guy going, "You're not talking to me, right?" But you can't see him, so everyone's just like, "Oh, he must be strong."
Or the reverse of that, because the camera couldn't get them, I'd throw out a reference and nobody would get it because you're like, "Oh, you can't see it. Never mind." Never mind. But it was fucking spot on.
So anyway, they blow up on TikTok. They get into the algorithm, and then they start exponentially getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And then then they just find your special on YouTube. It just all matriculate. It all kind of
and then ticket sales.
Yeah, the ticket sales was insane. I did my first tour that I kind of put together with comedy clubs called the Chipped Shoulder Tour. At the beginning, it was like January through June of 2023. And to me, this was like the epitome of what I thought a comedian could ever be. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to sell out comedy clubs. And we did for like 6 months straight, every single weekend, Thursday through Sunday. It was a dream come true. Like everybody was coming from the internet. It was fresh. It was new. It was exciting. 6 months before that, I was doing one-nighters for just papered rooms of like maybe 100 people if I was lucky. So everything kind of shifted super fast. And I was like, oh my God, I made it. This is so cool. And then when I partner with Live Nation, they're like, we're going to do some theaters. I was fucking terrified. So I was like, I'd play like 2 theaters ever opening for people.
Amazing.
And it's way different. It's way more pressure for sure. You can take your time. There's so much intimacy in a comedy club versus a theater. It's a different type of performance. So I was so nervous. I was like, well, what if people don't come? And we went on sale, and then I woke up the first morning of artist pre-sale, which was just me sending out a code to my fans. Every show sold out in like 5 to 10 minutes. And we were adding shows immediately.
600,000 tickets, right?
In 48 hours. Yeah. And we've added so many shows since then. We're close to like 1 million tickets sold for the past 2 years, a year and a half, really.
That's amazing.
Insane. I don't recommend it.
To anybody out there, is super hard to do. It's very tricky. It's hard to sell them that fast. But I think you're also more in the age of not the One Direction, Taylor Swift, but people know when they like someone and they're younger, they fucking get on it and they get online and they do stuff. And I kind of miss that because, by the way, no one was playing, I'm not saying I would, but no one was playing really theaters when I was, early on, but not that early on. I mean, even when I was on SNL, it was probably Leno, Seinfeld, but no one even thought that was a possibility. Really, no one took. Even when I was doing clubs 10 years ago, you're just, oh, I added a night at the Irvine Improv. Oh, I added a night here. Oh, I'm going to sell out all 5 nights, and that was the big victory. Yeah. And then you start hearing about theaters, and you go, wait, they're playing a real theater, and you do, instead of 3 shows, you just do 1 in a bigger place. It sounded, and then now it's kind of the norm, but it's still hard to do. Yeah, hard for me.
It's extraordinary. One thing I'm curious about, Matt, is like, so now still the timeline is so fast. How has it affected you as a performer? I mean, have you gotten more confident, more loose, more in the pocket, or, because you're famous, and then everyone's coming there to see you because they love you before they're, it's just a huge leap. How has it affected your performing? Are you just more confident, looser, better, you think, or not at all? Or what? I mean, it's such a huge, fast leap. what you
Definitely
make?
Way more confident. I finally got the validation that I wanted for 11 years of just wanting an opportunity to convince people I'm funny. And now they're coming to the show and I get to show them that. And they're just fun. It is so interesting to perform for an audience of your fans. Like they trust you. So you get to have more fun. You can try new things. I will say there's more pressure as well. I mean, even though they are your fans, like you still have to, and you won't always, it's impossible to please everybody, but you want to meet that standard. You want to meet that expectation that they have of you. And it sucks when you don't. And sometimes you can feel when you don't, but when you supersede their expectation, that feels, and there's no greater high than that, I think, than when you get to just crush for like 5,000 people and you all feel like you shared the exact same experience. Because sometimes you can know the crowd had a good time and you didn't have a good time, or you can have a good time and you know the crowd didn't have a good time. It doesn't always match up. So when it does, it's such an electric feeling, and I love that. But definitely more confident for sure. Just having more fun.
From watching some of your stuff, I do think that you really you create an intimacy even in the big room, and it's very you're kind of a little bit referring to yourself. It is sort of like, hey, it's Matt. The audience is in it with you as a person as you're doing this task, and that's sort of a skill set that's very nice to have. That you're there as a real person. It's not just your act. You know what
Absolutely.
I mean?
I think some of that's inspired. Like my two favorite stand-ups. Sorry, guys.
That's all right. Well, but you mean your third and fourth favorite?
Third and fourth is perfect. Dave Chappelle and Ricky Gervais are my two favorite stand-ups.
Dave who?
Chappelle.
I'll show you clips of him, Dana.
They're both absolutely brilliant. I know all about those guys. Is it on? Are they on TikTok? Go ahead.
They are not. I don't think they even have the app on their phone, which good for them. They've just taught me like patience and performance and seeing. Like I've opened for Chappelle at Madison Square Garden, which was fucking insane. Not just for me to perform, but to watch him control. What is that room in the round? Like 18,000 people.
Yeah.
For them to all stay silent while he stays silent.
Yeah.
Like there's an art to that. And so many people don't understand that.
Shows get out of hand and it's too many people. That can be a problem. Like if they're coming to see you, also there's a pressure of ticket prices are higher. They got a babysitter now. It's a whole fucking shenanigans. Parking. They parked and they paid. Yeah. And you want them to walk out and go, I'm glad I did it. Instead of like, you don't want them to go shoulder shrugger. It was all right. But that's why, and then you want them to come again.
Absolutely.
Next tour. So
longevity, I think, is harder than, the flash of success.
Yeah.
The thing
about where the pressure comes in now.
For sure.
Chappelle, and this is what they always relate it to Cosby, pre all the Cosby stuff, is that he mastered the level of confidence, got to the point where he would tell a story and he'd be sitting on a stool and there wouldn't really be a laugh for 10 minutes. They told me at corporate dates, which I did after him or whatever, sometimes 20 minutes he's in his chair because the lady said and the man, and it's nothing funny. And then waterfall of laughs start to happen.
Yeah.
And I saw that with Dave too. Always a great stand-up.
Yeah.
But at some point, his confidence or whatever he did, he made a leap into this other level of a storyteller where he is not afraid of the silence at all. And the audience feels that. So go ahead.
I think Dave found his don't give a fuck. And when I say that, you guys know Eric Griffin, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's a very good friend of mine. And I used to open for him a lot when I was really young. And he used to tell me, I'd get off stage and I didn't feel like I had a good set. And I'd be fucking miserable in the green room. And he would be like, dude, you have to stop giving a fuck. And I used to throw a tantrum. I was like, how can you fucking say that? Like, people are paying their hard-earned money to come see you out for the night. Like, they deserve a good show. You have to give them a good show. How can you not give a fuck how it goes? And I didn't understand what he was saying. He meant confidence. Like, you have to not give a fuck what they think and trust and know that you're funny and you're going to give them a good show. And not every show is going to go your way. That's what he meant by not give a fuck. And I think Chappelle found that. he had so many, like, he had such a roller coaster of a career of like severe ups and severe downs that eventually he just stopped caring in the most healthy way possible. And now that confidence just kind of like seeps through.
And I do think I've always thought it was analogous, word alert, of a guy going into a singles bar and really wants to get laid. And not going to happen. And then the guy goes in and doesn't really give a fuck. Well, we'll see what happens. Boom. It's applicable to so many things in life, but that is a good way to go to. But I'm such a people pleaser. I feel terrible if I don't levitate the room. If I don't get a standing ovation, I get cranky. But I'm not that cranky. I do something you might find funny. So I started playing the guitar at the end of my stand-up because I just, they were tired, and then I do this big zing, and then I hold my guitar up by the neck way up. And when I do that motion upward, I'm like 12 feet tall. And then I usually will get a standing ovation once I do that move. So you could use that if you want.
I have a guitar on stage that I never play, and it just lifted at the very end.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's funny.
As a funny prop?
Yeah. I'll keep it. I'll have like several. I'll have a saxophone, a guitar, a keyboard, and just throw out.
Then you go, guys. It's been an hour 10. I never got time to do the music, but next time. And then they're like, wait, what?
I will sing the best of Perry Como.
We got to talk about Lucid, Dana. We got to talk.
No. Let's get on to your your specials on Netflix.
It seems like there was one a year ago. Was that a year ago? It was pretty recently.
Yes. Last November, Natural Selection.
Hey, look at that. That's pretty quick.
Well, that's why I kind of wanted to do the crowd work, because I was like, I can do that anywhere, anytime.
It's great.
It's not reliant on me building a set.
So with Lucid, your first kind of coming out on Netflix is kind of a, it's a big deal to get a giant special. And there was controversy about that. People said, ask about the controversy. I mean,
that's
that was with Natural Selection. Yeah,
that was the first one.
Oh, that's Natural Selection, not Lucid. Sorry. I always call it the crowd work special. I don't know. How many are there?
Lucid is the new one. And I was watching. Great. Go ahead, Danny.
I just call it the crowd work special.
Sure. That works.
That's more than like, but you may have, it's better. Lucid is better. So anyway, to the first one. What did that do for you? That was your first big Netflix special.
The first one, it taught me that if people see they will exploit any chink in your armor as possible. I love that special. I think it's really funny. I had some problems with the production of it, but the material in it, I fucking liked. I think it's really funny. And there was some controversy around the beginning of the special, which was total bullshit, by the way. I learned that we live in a society where it's like, it's cool to hate something. Like, we latch onto one thing in a certain moment a couple of times a year. And I got to be that thing that people went, aha, this is awful. He's a piece of shit. This isn't funny. He's the worst person in the world. And the only reason I know that wasn't a real thing was because at least 1 million people have watched that special since January, right? No one's complained about it since January. Not one single person has written a bad tweet. Not one person has written me a mean comment. Nothing. It was purely a pop culture outrage that people knew. This was also at a point in time in my career that if you just mentioned my name in your video, or even just the title of one of your videos, you would get 1 million views. Like, I was able to make other people famous. So it was a bullshit controversy. It wasn't a real thing. I didn't do anything wrong. So it was just a learning experience, really, for me. But it was a fun special. I liked it.
It did work on my TikTok when I mentioned you a lot.
Just
a hashtag. I didn't really mention you.
It worked for Jesselyn too, and Marin.
I've legally changed my name to Matt Rife as we've been doing.
Hashtag Matt Rife.
My attorney just confirmed it. Yep, I'm Matt Rife with 2 Fs. So I don't know.
Your credit score just went down.
But yeah, that social media just obviously it's the dark side of humanity. You just came out of nowhere. some people, and you were incredibly successly.
Some people go, "That's enough. That's enough."
You're young.
Oh, absolutely.
You're handsome. You're handsome. I mean, comedians are usually kind of funny looking, or average. So you're handsome. You wear it on your sleeve. You're funny, and I think that people come out of the woodwork. I don't like this guy. He's too successful, but.
People go, "You got too big for your britches," and you're like, "You gave me the britches."
Yeah,
that's your third special. You gave me the britches. Hey,
I don't really play up my handsome card. I sort of just wear a hat. I cruise around. Anyway, other than that,
so then
this on Lucid. I don't know why I want to keep jumping to Lucid.
No, this is Lucid is happening right now.
It's the new one, and
just came out.
Like the beginning, it looks cool. I couldn't sit on a stool for an hour. You're comfortable. You got a green hoodie that pops, and you talk a little bit, and it is crowd work, but it seems just a couple questions. Crowd is lit from underneath too, like at the tables. Are there like little like candle-ish things to give them some light, right? Because the whole thing is designed so we're going to talk to the crowd. So anyone in the crowd can talk.
Yeah,
which just makes it really fun for them. They start out as a good crowd right off the bat, which I thought. I've had a special where they're not good right off the bat, and you're like, "This is my fucking special. You're paying extra to see me. Like it's unreal."
The worst audience is always the time
because they're looking at the cameras. They're like, "I'm going to be part of it," and then they're nervous. Something about a special sometimes tightens people up. But I remember just the first couple laughs. I go, "Oh fuck, I'd be in a good mood if I was him because they're having fun. They like him already. Then you start going after the first guy, and then you talk a little bit." And then you start going after someone else. But I like that way it was shot. I guess, do you hide cameras coming this way, or do they see them coming at them?
No. So have you done the Charlotte Comedy Zone?
I have not. That was in Charlotte. Yeah, I haven't done it.
Okay. So the Charlotte Comedy Zone is kind of like the original Columbus Funny Bone, where it's very low ceilings, about 350 people. And I chose that club. I had to do it in a comedy club because for the sake of production, everybody needed to be able to hear everybody.
Absolutely.
Like I knew if I talked to somebody in the back of the room, the people in the front of the room needed to be able to hear it for the taping at least.
Yeah.
And this club, the walkway on stage is behind black curtains from the very side of the room all the way to the behind the stage where you come out. And I knew, because I've been playing that club since I was like 16, that I could poke cameras through the black curtains and we could hide them from a lot of people and hide them from the other cameras.
Yeah, good. I didn't see him.
I'm just before we go, because I'm interested in maybe very quickly what you didn't quite like about the production on the previous one, but this one, the beginning is great. You, Mamas and Papas, dream a little dream.
Yeah.
I mean, then I'm already like, this is not a normal special, and it feels so good and dreamlike, which becomes your theme. Because that was the other thing I thought. Okay, you had the guy with the weird shoes. You're doing all your stuff, and then you're just sort of talking. Yeah. And I'm going, okay, how? No one is yelling out at this moment.
Yeah, how is he going to? So they can get rowdy. That's the fear. They get too rowdy.
They could get rowdy, but it was. I thought it was inspired to say, I want to hear about people's dreams. Like that's such a great hook to then get people talking. So anyway,
well, that was kind of the deal with Netflix. Like they were obviously interested in doing something with crowd work for me, and I totally agree. But they were like, we don't want it to just be like a highlight reel of you talking to random people about random things. Like there needs to be a theme to the show. So I spent a couple of months playing with different themes, and it needed to be something everybody can contribute to. And everybody has a dream. Every single person has or has had some kind of aspiration. So I went on, I did 4 weekends. And by weekends, I mean Monday, Tuesdays, the only 2 days I've had off for the past year and a half. And I would go to comedy clubs near where I was playing theaters, and I would test it out. I would do entire crowd work shows, which I'd never done before. Like crowd work is such a small part of my actual live show. I do like 10 minutes of it, maybe throughout the show. And it's perfectly placed. Like it has to do kind of like Red Flags, where it's like, it has to do with the bit that I'm already talking about. It's not at total random usually. So I had to feel what it felt like to try to improv for an entire hour. And I also needed to kind of hear make sure people had dreams that they wanted to talk about. And I didn't know if they were going to be super generic, like just a firefighter or sports player or a musician. I didn't know if it was going to be like, the generic kinds that were going to get old.
Enough to jump on. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, but going and doing these 8 warm-up shows or 8 weekends that I did, that's when I realized, you're right. They could be super fucking rowdy. Like there were some shows that I was like, this taping might be a terrible idea. Right. We might not get anything.
Because some people really want to be part of the show and they keep yelling, and you're like, you're not helping.
Yeah, and alcohol plays a piece in that too.
Yeah, and that's never the person who offers the most interesting interaction. It's always the least assuming person. Yeah,
when you're just doing your act, you look over and someone has decided to involuntarily stand up and start yelling stuff, and then you're like, "We got a situation here,"
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So go ahead.
I'm trying to answer. You asked 3 questions in one. Dreams Production was something everybody could contribute to.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I didn't like about the production and natural selection was just the editing. We went back and forth with the editor a lot. The first 15 minutes was chopped so quickly, and that I didn't like. I felt like a lot of the air was taken out of beats in jokes.
You need it.
And you fucking need it. When I watched it on Netflix when it first came out and I was so fucking excited, I checked my Netflix like 4 times because I thought I was watching it in fast forward. Because so much of the air had been taken out from just with camera angles and
they cut it like
switches.
It's a TikTok video or like it's something on where they go.
Yeah,
no attention.
I hated that, and I don't blame anybody. It was a group effort on that, but it was my first big special, and I could have done that a lot better.
Yeah, I've been in that situation, and I said, "You're making an audience member is in a magic chair." That all of a sudden I'm the size of an ant. The next cut is full face in screen. Then it's a hard left angle. I mean, what the fuck? We already figured out the money shot, the Johnny Carson, what they call the cowboy shot, moving. Just that's your primary shot. So the last special I did, they go, we didn't really get the cowboy shot. So they did not have any of that shot. They had head to toe or just neck up. So, yeah,
it was experimental.
Again,
so that's a learning experience.
So what I guess I wasn't even thinking, but when I saw Lucid, it just seemed very organic, very real, like you're there. Wasn't cut to pieces and tight close-ups. It was just very comfortable, and also being in a hoodie on the stool denotes casualness. Like
I like when you tell the crowd, if this doesn't work, it's equally your fault.
Oh, thank you. Because the first critic review when that trailer came out was Matt Rife's already blaming his audience for how bad this is going to be.
You're kidding.
Swear to God. I'll send you the article.
I like that.
Wow. That's so ridiculous. It's funny. Like what they
Looking forward to a career in this.
I like the Twin Towers joke. I'm not going to go through all the jokes, but I think people, crowd work, it can get looked down upon with comics, or they can get looked up upon because how fucking hard it is. It's too hard for me to do. I do it a tiny, tiny bit. But doing your act on the road, it, and you're sharpening little tiny corners, and it's hard to focus. But when you have to focus on every goddamn thing that's going on with crowd work, what they're saying, what the reaction is, how to call back the last guy, what he's tied into this, make sure that guy's not moving. Why is that weight just walking over there? And you're just trying to do that for an hour. It's hard. So there's something to that to keep it going. Did you have to do 2 shows? I was thinking, how would you do 2 shows? Because people know the crowd now.
Well, that was the biggest thing in the edits. We had multiple tapings where I was like, this could be the entire thing. So you had to go, obviously you go through and you're like, okay, what's going to be the best ones? And we ended up having to use predominantly the first show we did because we obviously wanted everything to look the same, right? Yeah. We didn't want exactly what you were just saying, where you see the front row is one person in a bright red hoodie. And obviously I recognize that guy. And then
the big cowboy
the next shot guy. Is exactly.
The guy with the giant
and the flow of it. You know what I mean? Like I didn't want to go from a blowjob story to talking about something so drastically different that didn't match the flow of the show. So a lot of it wasn't editing that we were like, we're just going to have to use predominantly one show.
And usually one show is the best. Sorry, Dana, but usually one show stands out. Go ahead, Dana.
No, I was just saying that you're doing your special. And then you get an occupation of a woman who teaches other women how to perform oral sex. I'll just say it that way.
Gift from comedy gods, dude.
Yeah,
and then you're like, okay, let's unpack. I mean, you're like, you must have thrown a little bit of a party in your head for a second. Like, okay, here we go.
Do you move that up front?
She was the first interaction.
I was thinking that'd be great because I would have, if that happened later, I'd probably go, let's get the crowd going right away. Let's throw that right up front.
Oh, I definitely would have moved it, but she was the first, and I was like, oh, we're gonna have fun.
Then it was her daughter over here, and she was sitting separately, which was funny.
I couldn't fucking believe it. Her just mentioning that, I was like, oh, we've got 10 minutes, we're good.
Yeah,
and the mom sitting on the other side of the room was so fun.
And then everything she said was funny.
The amount of people who think that's fake is so funny to me. I'm like, you don't
couldn't
think I
really
how
fake it because it was
am?
such odd answers.
Couldn't fake it, couldn't plan it.
I wouldn't write her to say those things. I would make it different, but just her answers were weirder and weirder. And then she was a gift. Yeah.
No, it was great. They were a gift. The boots were a gift.
Oh.
But then you also get. I was so happy that we kept in the lady who had like the daddy issues at the very end, the girl who looks like Joaquin Phoenix and Joker, just because she was spouting fucking nonsense, and I got to have just an authentic moment of acknowledging like, you're not always going to get a good answer. You know, not every interaction is funny, and sometimes you get fed some bullshit, and we had to keep that in.
So you have all this variables in the show rather than just couples that are going to break up 3 in a row. You know, there's all these different modalities. And, I just thought it was nicely done too at the end where you kind of froze on the people and said what they're going to do with their life or whatever in the closing credits.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
That's a nice touch. So it was, I just wonder how some of your peers would think about this, like, because you're the first one to do a pure crowd work, at least for Netflix, right?
It's the first one they've produced. Todd Barry had one in 2015, which was fucking great. But this is the first one that Netflix produced. They acquired his.
Yeah.
He's a funny guy.
But also like Andrew Schultz has done a crowd work special before. Yeah. He did one like the DC Improv. I did one on YouTube 2 years ago as well. All red flags. So I mean, it's been done before, but this was the first one on this scale, I suppose.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah,
Dan, anything else for this guy?
No, I just think that was a really cool idea.
Good idea.
Thanks, man.
And it worked out great. We're fans. We think you're extremely talented. You've earned everything you got, and this is where we get sincere and tear up a little bit. No, but be proud of yourself. And your grandpa's looking down. He's around. He's here, and just keep doing what you're doing. I wouldn't know what to say. I just think. Haters gotta hate, but I think that's probably now everyone's used to you and they've seen 2 great specials. I think we're all over any kind of.
It gets corny to make fun of you at a certain point. They're like, all right, we did that. That's over. Yeah. Let's move on. It's working. Something's working over there.
Well, thank you, man. And I can't thank you guys enough for even wanting me to do the pod, man. You guys, this is gonna sound sappy and corny, but you guys are genuinely like the reason I do comedy. Like growing up watching you guys are my fucking idols. So thank you so much for having me do this.
Damn.
Thank you, bud.
Well,
appreciate it. I'll see you out there. And
yes, sir. I'll see you around.
Okay. All right, man.
Thanks,
have a good day. Pleasure.
Bye,
later, you guys.
This has been a presentation of Audacy. Please follow, subscribe, leave a like, a review, all the stuff. Smash that button, whatever it is, wherever you get your podcasts. Fly on the Wall is executive produced by Dana Carvey and David Spade, Jenna Weiss-Berman of Audacy, and Heather Santoro. The show's lead producer is Greg Holtzman.